Hi, everyone, and welcome to the See You in Heaven podcast. My name is Presley Hobson, and as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, we are in a different location today, and we have a guest, Miss Payton Hobson. My sweet sister is on the podcast with us today, and yeah, we are currently, this is March 14th. We're currently
Yes.
on my bachelorette trip celebrating in Miami, Florida for the wedding that's coming up, and I needed to film this week, and my sister and I don't live in the same place right now, so what a better way to do it than in Miami with this beautiful view that we're currently at the condo we're staying at. And if you're watching on YouTube, it is absolutely gorgeous. The coconut trees behind us, the beach is right across the street. It is beautiful. It has been such a sweet celebration already. And yeah, so this is Payton.
Hi.
I've talked about her a lot
Yes.
on a lot of my podcasts.
Yes.
She's also my best friend, and just we're really, really close.
Yeah.
And we are going to be talking about grief today and just what that looks like going through it young, what that looks like going through it with the Lord and without the Lord, and how much that has impacted her and I, and also just how the Lord spoke to her through grief and all of the things. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited. Yes. I mean, I like for it to be like, I'm excited about talking about grief, but it's been a journey, and there's a lot that has been on my heart that I want to be able to share with people.
Yeah.
Because walking with the Lord through grief looks completely different than how I had imagined it when everything had first happened. But I guess I can like tell the story and then get into it.
Make sure you're talking to your mic.
I'm not gonna do full testimony, obviously. I'm just gonna focus in on basically like the last 5 months of my life. But my boyfriend Nathan, we're dating for about a year. We started dating in October of 2023, and we were together. He had moved to California and was playing baseball out there, and that was his dream, to be out there and just doing what he loved.
Sorry.
But it's okay. Unfortunately, he was involved in a fatal motorcycle accident on October 14th of 2024. And I'm already getting emotional about it, but the day that I got that phone call was the worst day of my life. You never think that's something that can happen to you. Genuinely, the breath was taken from my lungs when his mom called me. And I felt like my reality had just been turned completely upside down. While we were long distance, that kind of made it harder because I hadn't seen him since August, anyways. So just knowing that there was that anticipation to see him again, and then that was stripped away, like you are never going to see him again, was probably one of the hardest first things that I had to deal with.
That's awful.
But I can remember in the first few days, few weeks, I really struggled with imagining what my life was going to look like with this grief. I was basically thought this was a death sentence for me too. Like, now I have to carry this heavy, heavy weight for the rest of my life, and there's no way of escaping it. And my heart is always going to be broken, and my soul is always going to feel heavy. I'm always going to have this burden laying on my back.
And we all, like, I even felt that.
Yeah.
Like, same thing, like none of us were together, like our whole family was spread apart, so we all received calls about this. And he had gotten in a car accident and they couldn't identify him.
Yeah.
And so he had passed away on a Monday, like the accident happened on a Monday, and we didn't know till Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so we all had that like shock.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just, I remember those first couple of days being like, how do I go to
Yeah.
class?
What do we even
How do I go
do?
to class? How do I just not act normal? Because I'm not going to put on a front. If I'm hurting, I'm hurting,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm okay.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for my roommates and for the friends that we have because they were so intentional. And these people are people that we were in community with in church.
Already. Yes.
So so your friends
Yes.
were all people from church who were equipping you in prayer,
Yes.
who were speaking life
Yes.
over you.
And my coworkers, shout out to Kala and Dari. They're like my sisters too, and they just speaking life over me and checking in on me and just going to war and prayer for me. And but yeah, just I remember those first few weeks, they were grueling. Nothing felt as, I guess, prominent as to what was going on in my life. I wanted to drop out of school.
Yeah.
I wanted to quit my job. I didn't want to do anything ever again, really, or for the foreseeable future. But it was really hard. And those 2 weeks are kind of a blur for me because there was a lot of just discussion about really grueling things that you have to have when somebody you love passes away.
And it's immediate. You don't get time.
You don't have time to grieve. You have to, with him being in California, we literally had to have everything of his shipped back to Virginia, had to have a death certificate made in California and sent back to Virginia. Just all of these intricate details that you don't even think about. And I think,
and that's still going on now.
Yes, it's still happening now.
So it's a lengthy when someone passes away in a different state, there's different laws, there's all these different things.
Yes.
And still today, that we're still his mom is still going through
all of this.
And it's having to face it every single day.
She's the strongest person I know, just constantly reliving this and like just even having to deal with just the aftermath of everything that happened. And it's been 5 months, literally to this day. It has been 5 months, and that's so crazy. But yeah, just we had a viewing for him, and
that was hard.
That was the call, and then I think the viewing. Obviously, you think about those being the two hardest things, but you can't imagine how hard they are. I was paralyzed in fear in the car on the way there, and I was shaking from literally inside out. When I got there, I felt like I was gonna pass out. Literally all of the
because it feels like you're watching someone's life.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like. It feels like, and I can't imagine the situation you're in, but I personally felt like I was watching someone else's story pan out in front of me, and I was not a part of it.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like. Like I was almost disassociating from it because I didn't want to have to deal with the pain.
And that's one thing that I struggled with a lot. Is like I felt like I had to show up in a certain way rather than letting myself be grieving, because when you're seeing, like, I mean, Nathan's viewing, there was like 350 people that came to this thing, and it was like in a small funeral home, and it was people that I knew from all different walks of his life and people I didn't know from all different walks of his life, and people that I was just meeting and like being introduced to. And so it was literally like a roller coaster. Like I showed up and thought I was going to throw up and pass out and like all of the things all at one time. And then I went in with his family before everyone had shown up, and it wasn't even like real.
Yeah.
Like, even though you see it, like I literally was waiting for him to like sit up and be like, surprise, I'm home. Like, this is all a big joke.
Yeah.
And I was like,
right.
Just staring at him. Like, that's all that I could do. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way that this is actually happening in my life. And that is the person that I love so much. And now, like, their body is here and their soul is not. And, like, you can feel it in the room when it's just, like,
it's heavy.
The physical embodiment of a person, and their soul, their laughter, his spirit was not in the room at all. I had my best friends there with me. and my family came, obviously, because he was heavily involved in all of their lives. And so just his impact on everybody was, he was very heavily involved in all of our lives. But yeah, so the weeks after that,
And
I
I think for me, well, and I don't mean to cut you
no,
off,
you're
but
good. Go ahead.
I mean just having to be away from you.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I remember, like, just crying. Oh my gosh. I just remember crying myself to sleep, like, every
Hmm.
night, because I was just like, yes, I was grieving Nathan, like, yeah, but I was also like, I just wanted so desperately to take the pain away from
Yeah.
you and put it on myself. And I was like, I can't, this is not a battle that I can fight for her. And I remember
Yeah.
telling Ryan that, and like the weight that I held,
Yeah.
because I wasn't physically there. Like, you're in Smithfield, I'm in Blacksburg,
Yeah.
and I couldn't physically be there for her.
Yeah.
And just wanting so desperately to take the burden
Mm.
of grief from her and just put it on myself.
Yeah.
And that's not something that you can do.
Yeah.
Um and so that for me was so hard. But I just remember when he passed away,
Mm.
I remember there being the most overwhelming sense of like peace knowing that he was in heaven.
Mm.
And I feel like that for me, even when, because we're
Yeah.
all in our heads, when you find something like this out, whether you were close to him or not, like, in your head, that's probably one of the first things you think. Where was he at in his salvation? Or how did it happen? What did the crash look like? And those are not images that you want to see. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. But like, even like seeing the news report and stuff, like that, like, felt like someone was driving a like sword in my heart.
Yeah.
Like, even having to see like the motorcycle like crashed on the side of the road when they did the news report. Like,
Yeah.
even like not even his body, nothing was involved. Just that in itself was like, I almost feel for anyone who's ever lost
Yeah.
anyone and something like that has
Yeah.
been on the news, because
And
it's so insensitive to the
yeah,
family.
like you see those things now, and like
Yes.
after we've experienced it, and like even watching the news now, and there will be like bloodstains in a shoe on a crime
And
scene,
I'm like,
and it's
why
like,
would you, even if that
why would
wasn't,
you,
even
even
if
if
that
it was
wasn't,
staged, like
don't
still
do
don't
that to the
ever,
family.
yeah.
It was so just, but anyways, yeah, so it was just, I think in during all of this we were all fighting our own battles and we were
Yep.
all grieving different things,
Yeah.
because like obviously you were his girlfriend, and like
Yeah.
you were his, like, you were the love of his life. And so, but we all had a different connection to him.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think my prayer the whole time, because constantly covering Payton in prayer, and just my prayer was, Lord, like people say here on earth that grief is hard, grief is difficult, grief is long, it's grueling, it's waves, like
Yeah.
all of this. And I'm like, Lord, make it easy, make it light, make it
Mm.
easy, make it light. Don't allow her, even now, even the
Yeah.
days after, even being so close to it, do not allow her to walk around with this weight that is weighing her down.
Yeah.
And just, yes, work through it, yes, talk through it,
Yeah.
yes, go to therapy, yes, find community and be in community and cry and grieve and all the things, yes, do all of those things, but don't allow this to alter
Oh
the course
yeah.
of her life,
Yeah.
you know.
And that was a prayer for myself as well. Just multiple times over, I would pray that the Lord didn't let my heart be hardened to
Mm,
the world by this situation,
mm,
because unfortunately, I've had people in my life that have experienced the same thing, and that is, this feeling is never something that I would wish on anybody.
yeah.
And walking through this, like losing someone so close to you is never anything that I would want anybody to experience. And I always like tell my friends, honestly, out of everybody around me, I'm glad that it was me. Because if I saw somebody that I loved experience this, I would never know what to do.
Yeah.
I would never know what to do. But that was a prayer for myself, is that I wouldn't let my heart be hardened to the world around me, to the people around me who were trying to love me and trying to support me, because it is
Yeah.
it can be overwhelming. Especially in the big events, the celebration of life, the viewing, you get touched out, you get emotional out, like you don't want anybody to talk to you. I don't want anybody to say I'm sorry to me again. I don't want anybody to hug me again. Thank you for your comfort, but like literally 6 feet away, please. Like
Yeah.
that's genuinely how it felt. And I'm sure that if you've experienced loss, like you truly do understand, like it's very onset, the support is very onset, and then everybody wants to act now when it first happens. And people will be like, well, that dwindles out. I have not experienced that, and I thank God that I have not experienced that. I thank God every day that my support has never dwindled out.
Yeah.
That my regulars at work care about me, my family cares about me so much, my coworkers care about me so much, my family at church cares about me so much. People are constantly checking up on me and praying for me and just bringing me devotionals that they think I'll like, or getting me journals and they'll be like, I thought that you would like this one. Like those things mean so much, and people have no idea.
Yeah.
Like how it wasn't just a crash and burn of all this affection and comfort at one time, and it was like, where did everybody go?
Yeah.
I've never experienced that, and my heart goes out to everyone who has experienced loss, like within the past few years or ever really, and that's what happened to you. Because um, one of my big comforts, obviously, I got pretty deep into my faith last Easter. I was literally like baptized by the Holy Spirit on Good Friday. Um, and that moment changed my faith forever. And up until Nathan's death, I had been kind of going through just a pruning of just my heart with the Lord, and being separated from the things of this world and the things that I had idolized, and really just learning how to put my trust into Him. And as horrible and as much as I hated long distance, um, I don't know how I would be today if Nathan and I had been together the way that we were before he had moved away, because we were together like every single day, genuinely. And if Nathan hadn't set off on that course of his life, I just don't think that I would be able to function the way that I am now.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to see the Lord's hand in that, and just the way that He just weaves things together so miraculously, and that His protection over my life, and just His want for me to carry this well, even that even through this, He has just been so supportive. And like literally the only thing that I can imagine that has gotten me through in the way that I have,
Yeah. Is your relationship with the Lord.
is my relationship with God. And that's genuinely like, when I tell people what has happened, or they ask about it, I've had multiple people tell me that is never something that I would think that you had experienced in your life. And this is not to brag on me, this is to brag on God.
Yeah.
Because the joy of the Lord is not something that can be described, and you talk about it a lot. The joy of the Lord is not something that can even be explained, because I have something in my heart that can never be stripped away from me. I lost my boyfriend at the age of 19, and the joy of the Lord cannot be stripped from my heart. I told myself every single day, God is still good, even with this happening in my life.
Yeah.
Following Nathan's death, I built my foundation on that when I felt like everything in my world had been destroyed. While he was already my foundation, it's even more of a testament to just building your life on sand and building your life on a rock.
Yeah.
Like, if my life hadn't been placing cinder blocks with faith, the 7-8 months before Nathan passed, there was no way that I would have gotten through in the way that I am.
Yeah.
And I can even imagine who I would be if I didn't. I Whew, I can't, like, it's hard to even talk about who I would be if I didn't have God and I had experienced this loss.
I always say that if I didn't know the faith that you had, like if in that moment when we're facing all of this stuff and you didn't have a strong faith, that I would have had to drop out of college. I would have had to go home. I would have had to be with Payton. I would have never forgiven myself
Yeah.
if something were to have happened to you because of
Yeah.
how you felt. Because of how you felt that was the end of you, so you felt like that was the only option out.
Yeah.
I would have never forgiven myself.
Yeah.
And I think that my security always was that God was protecting you.
Yeah.
And so I think that when I was facing when I was facing all of these emotions about just like wanting to be there for you and not being able to, I just gave it to the Lord and I said, God, I said, she is also your daughter.
Yes.
And I know that you care about her the same way that you care about me.
Yes.
And I know that you would never leave me.
No.
And so you're never going to leave her.
No.
And I said, so please protect her.
Yeah.
Please protect her. Because, I mean, anyone watching this, if you face grief or not, there's probably someone in your life that has lost someone.
Yeah.
And that has completely destroyed them.
Yeah.
It completely destroys families. It destroys relationships. It destroys people. People take their lives. I mean, grief and death is not something to play around with.
And I mean, this might be hard to hear, but if I did not have a faith in God, and I think I've told maybe like you and Marissa all this, but I probably would have killed myself. Like,
Because it's
genuinely,
too heavy.
Like, genuinely, I wanted to die the first 3
Even
days
with
after
the
it
Lord.
happened. Like, with the Lord. And with all the questions that you constantly have spinning through your head, and you can't sleep, you can't eat.
No.
You feel
you're
like
sick.
you're in hell. Like, genuinely, that's how death feels. And
It reminds me of Elijah.
yes.
And when there's but I think it's in Second Kings, but there's a story in the Bible, and this prophet of the Lord, someone who's anointed, someone who's really really close to the Lord, is doing all of these great things for God, which at your point in your life before Nathan's death, that's what Payton's doing. She's she's leading a small group with me. She's going to church. She's in a small group. Like, she's doing all of these great things for the Lord. And then the prophet in the Bible, Elijah, gets a threat from a king or a queen named Jezebel that she's gonna kill him. And he runs, and he's like running and running and running, and he's like wants to die.
Yeah.
He literally is like, kill me, God. Kill me. Like, I want to die. I don't want to be here. Kill me. And all the Lord gives him is sleep.
And
sleep
food.
and food.
Yeah.
And that's all. The Lord doesn't ask him to worship him. The Lord does not ask him to pray. The Lord does not ask Elijah to do anything.
The Lord gives.
He gives, he gives in those moments when you are weak. And he gave you sleep, which, I mean, even that during this grief is like a miracle. Because how do you go to sleep with these awful things and thoughts in your mind? So even that in itself was a miracle.
Yeah.
And so, and then to eat, and like you're sick, like you feel sick all the time because you're just trying to cope with all these things. And so that's what it really reminds me of, is that the moment that you were at the end of yourself and you're like, I want to die right now.
Yeah.
Like, I want to die, God. Like, if this is my time, make it now, because I don't want to be here, bro. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't think I have the boldness to take myself out.
Yeah.
But like, please, if this is my time, let me go, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but he gave you these like very practical, loving, and he just hugged you and held you in these moments of grief.
And it literally feels like, I don't know, like I got picked up by him.
Yeah.
Like, that's like when I was just in that state, it's literally like, you don't even have to worry about this.
Yeah, it's
like,
taken care of.
Literally, like, picked up like a baby and just like carried and like, no, I'm gonna walk you now. Like, you're not gonna have to, like, I'm not gonna hold your hand while you walk. I'm not gonna watch you be bent over and panting and dragging your feet. Like, literally, that's how I can imagine it, is like, he lifted my chin up and picked me up and said, "You're coming with me." And like
Yeah.
this is just the way that it's going to be, because there's a lifting of my spirit. Like my spirit is not drowning.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is not to say that I have never suffered throughout this grief.
No,
Like
not at
this,
all.
none of this is to say that I don't miss Nathan with every fiber of my being.
Yes.
That I feel like a part of my soul is missing,
Yeah.
because he was my best friend and he was somebody that I loved so much. But the Lord is just he's so good.
Yeah.
And I just, that was literally like the basis. And I had to like even in grief, I had to discipline myself in that. Like I literally had to be like, no, like God is still
Yeah.
good.
Like you did have those thoughts.
I did have those thoughts. Like, why would God take him away from me?
You're angry.
Why
Yeah.
would God do this? Another thing, speaking on that, you have to be authentic. I went to God and I told him, I said, I am pissed. I am pissed. I'm angry at you. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to see your face. I don't want to read my Bible. I don't even want to pray to you. Like, I don't want to talk to you. You just took my best friend out of my life. Somebody who has known me so well and just that I have seen grow so much in his faith. And now he's gone. And why would you do that? Like, those were the conversations that I was having. And then I was coming to him being like, I know that you're good and I know that you're my dad, but I am still mad at you and I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Like that's how it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's just
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
The Lord wants you to come
Yeah.
that way. And I think I've said it in like prior podcasts, but
Mhm.
he cannot bless a fake version of you because
Yourself,
that is
yeah.
not the version that he created.
Yeah.
That is not the
Not at
version that
all.
he created.
Yeah.
And so I think that that probably is a huge testament. But I just
Yeah.
thought of this verse in James 5:11, and it says, "See, we count those blessed, those who have endured. You have heard of Job's endurance and have seen the outcome that the Lord brought about. The Lord is compassionate and merciful."
Yeah.
And Job is a book in the Bible, and he was basically a man who Satan's wrath got let out on, basically.
Yeah.
And Job, in a moment, had his family, his livestock, his wealth, his health, everything
Taken
that
from
you
him.
could have thought of
Yeah.
taken from him. And he was a blameless, upright, righteous man before the
Not
Lord.
to mention he was going through physical suffering.
Yeah.
Like literally sores on his body.
Yeah,
that were
that's what I
oozing
meant,
and-
like his
yeah.
health. Like
Yeah.
everything was stripped from him.
Yeah.
And this man did not waver from the
Mhm.
Lord. And so I think like that's who, and I know you read the book of Job and all
Yeah.
that, but all that to say, what is like some scripture
I
or
was just about
things
to
that
say
you
that.
turn to
So
during these times, and how did
Um,
that comfort you?
God is so good, and I was at a small group at Kala's house the night that Nathan passed away. And this was,
And you did not know.
I did not know at this point.
This was Monday.
Yes.
Remember, we found out Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay,
So
sorry.
this was Monday. We found out Wednesday. And this was one of the verses that she read, and this has literally just been my lifeline. It's my lock screen, and I read it over myself when I need to, but I will never grieve. It says Lamentations 3, by the way. I'm gonna read 20 through 32. I will never forget this awful time as I grieve over my loss, yet I still dare to hope because I remember this. The faithful love of the Lord never ends, his mercies never cease. Great is his faithfulness, his mercies begin afresh every morning. I say to myself, the Lord is my inheritance, therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who depend on him, to those who search for him. So it is good to wait quietly for salvation from the Lord, and it is good for people to submit at an early age to the yoke of his discipline. Let them sit alone in silence beneath the Lord's demands, and let them lie down face down in the dust, for there may be hope at last. Let them turn the other cheek to those who strike them and accept the insults of their enemies, for no one is abandoned by the Lord forever. Though he brings grief, he also shows compassion.
Wow, that's powerful.
And that was read literally.
He knew. He was preparing you
Yes.
for what you were about to go
Yes.
through.
And also, Nathan's best friend passed the day before he did, Cameron. And there was a message that I had sent Nathan Tuesday morning because I did not know how to help him in his grief. I knew that he was so
What
distraught.
how the Lord works.
Yeah.
You didn't know how to help him in his
The
grief.
entire week before Nathan passed away, he was distraught over not being able to come home because Cameron was about to pass. And I sent him a message Tuesday morning just because I didn't know what am I supposed to say. Like, I know that you want to be distanced from everybody right now. You just lost your best friend. And that was to the extent that I could understand it. And then I didn't receive a text from him on Tuesday at all. And I was like, well, I kind of have to be understanding right now. He just lost his best friend. And then I got the call on Wednesday morning from Tasha. And I thought that she was calling to tell me about Cameron. And I told her that I already had known about Cameron. And that I was trying to help Nathan as much as I could. And then she said Nathan's gone. Isn't it just funny how even God knew that night while I was at that small group, Nathan was hit. Like, Nathan was hit while I was at that small group. And it's just such a testament to how he delivers so quickly when you're in a time of grief. Even before I knew I was grieving, he prepared my heart and gave me a verse to stand firmly in forever. I remember having a conversation with my dad in the car on the way to Virginia Tech because we were going to see my sister the weekend after it happened. And I just held his hand and I started crying because I was like asking him, I don't know why this would happen. And I don't know why it clicked when my dad told me this because I had heard it my whole life, but you hear that God does things that we can't understand and that we may not ever understand. But he's still good and we have to accept that. And when my dad spoke that over me, that just cemented it in my heart that I may not understand, I may never understand, but I still see him deliver in little ways all the time. There may never be this, like, there'll be like people say that if the Lord taketh away, he's gonna return it to you like 2 times over, whatnot.
Yeah.
And I may never see the full glory that comes out of Nathan's death, and I mean, like, that's just something that's not for me to understand, and I've come to accept that because
and I think that I heard this the other day, and I had never heard it before, and I was like, why have I never heard that? And the pastor said, if it's not a yes on this side of eternity, it's always a yes on that side of eternity.
Yeah.
So you may never see the goodness
that came out of it
on this side of eternity.
Yeah, that's true.
But when you get to heaven and you see the people that Nathan's faith saved, or the your faith saved, like, you don't know. You know what I mean? You don't know, because I feel like his what time is it?
9:18.
His what's it called? The celebration of life.
Oh, celebration of life, yeah.
Very much so was a call to salvation.
Yeah.
Very much so was a call to salvation. And
Shout
I feel
out
like
Pastor Anthony. You do amazing, always.
Pastor Anthony shared part of his testimony, which was really powerful. And Payton also spoke, and Payton gave a speech, and just already at the celebration of life was like, reciting Romans 8:28, where it's like, God is good and gives, or what does it say? God uses everything for good for those who love him.
Yeah.
And so, like, even that, you were just speaking that, and you're like, he will work this for good. Like, she's saying this at his celebration of life in front of everyone, in front of his mom, his brother, everyone. And she's saying this, and I just pray that it touched the right people. I pray that people saw your faith and saw your relationship with the Lord, and that they received the Lord's relationship and received Jesus as their Lord and Savior, because I can tell you, whoever is watching, like, no, I was not directly tied to Nathan. No, I did not like face the same grief that Payton is facing. But I can tell you one thing: no matter what you face in your life, God will not leave you.
Ever.
You just have to say yes to him.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
have to say yes to him.
And that also looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's important to mention because there were times where I got comparative with my grief and seeing the way that God showed up for other people in their grief
Oh, yeah.
and thinking that the Lord had left me.
Yeah.
And for me, the Lord was just kind of quiet and still and let me have my space and be angry and stomp my feet and swing my arms and scream at him and be mad and still have grace for me and still be like, that's okay. I
Yeah.
understand. Like, literally, that's all that I can think of that he was saying to me every single day
It's okay, I
in every
understand.
single moment.
Well,
That's
you
okay,
also
I
have to think, I
understand.
feel like what I thought of when we were like, and there, like you said earlier, there are some things that we are not supposed to understand.
Yeah.
If you are watching this, can I tell you something? There are things in this life that we are not supposed to understand. You are not
Yeah.
supposed to understand how the world turns. You are not supposed to understand anything that is outside of the Bible.
Yeah.
The Bible is the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
This is all we are supposed to know. Can I tell you that today? Stop trying to figure everything out.
Yeah.
Stop saying what if. Stop saying what if, what if, what if, what if. You are not supposed to understand.
Yeah.
It is his form of protection. If we understood, just like Adam and Eve, they wanted to know everything. And
Mhm.
guess what? Sin entered the world, and now we live this way. And there is death, and there is sickness, and there is grief,
destruction.
and there is suffering, and there is
Mhm.
awful, awful, awful things that happen on this earth
Yep.
because of it.
Yeah.
Because someone wanted to know everything.
Yeah.
So can I just tell you today, you are not supposed to understand everything.
And that's for our greater good.
That is for the good.
Because I'll speak on that too. Nathan's mom has guarded me from a lot that I haven't needed to know.
Yeah.
If I knew everything about Nathan's situation and what happened, and if I saw the coroner's report that came back,
Yeah.
like there are things that, and that is when I started to understand.
People protecting you, the Lord protecting you.
People protecting me, the Lord protecting me. There are things that I'm not supposed to know.
Things you could know
that I could if I
and
wanted
has not
to,
been
and
revealed to you.
No, that
Yeah.
I never needed to.
Yeah.
And that is just another way that the Lord works, is showing
And
us
it's
the
just
real life
protection.
situation. It is. It
He
genuinely
knows
is.
he knows
how
what
much
you can handle. He
Yeah.
will never tempt you past what you can. He is
Yeah.
not the tempter.
He will never
He
take
will
you to where
never-
his feet can't walk, ever.
Yes. And so, and what I was going to say about that is Jesus faced. There is nothing on this earth that we will face that
Mhm.
Jesus has not firsthand. He,
Sorry, there's a bug on me.
while Jesus was on this earth, he had a cousin named John that went before him, John the Baptist. John the Baptist was a great rabbi. He had followers, and he was Jesus's cousin who went before Jesus to prepare the way. This is who John the Baptist
Yep.
was. He was zealous for the Lord. He was on fire for God. He was spreading, telling everyone the
That's all that
Messiah
he
is
did with his
coming.
life.
That's all that he did with his life.
Mhm.
And when Jesus came, John the Baptist baptized Jesus at the age of 30 at the start of his ministry, and then was beheaded for standing up for Jesus.
Yep.
And I can't even imagine the grief that it doesn't really talk about the grief that Jesus faced when he lost his cousin and someone who paved the way for him and someone he knew, someone he grew up with.
It talks about Lazarus.
It talks about Lazarus. That was
That
another
he
friend
wept.
of Jesus, that Jesus cried.
Wept and wept and
Jesus
wept.
knows what grief feels like.
Mhm.
He knows what it means to not know everything in
Mhm.
those moments. I'm sure he knew that all of these things were going to happen, but it shows through his humanness that he wept.
Yeah.
And he knows what grief feels like. And so in these moments when you're grieving, like you can just think of Jesus understands what this
Yeah.
feels like, and that immediately
Yeah.
brings comfort,
Yeah.
And I think that there are other things that happened after Nathan passed away that was definitely the enemy's tactic to try to get our family angry, that tried to get you angry.
Yep.
Just things that maybe happened, maybe didn't happen. He said, she said, all these things.
Yep.
And that's how the enemy works. He
Yeah.
takes a moment of vulnerability and he tries to twist it to serve his purpose, twist
Mhm.
it to get you to put your faith down, twist it to get you to turn from God, turn to
Mhm.
the world, have bitterness, have anger, be mad at the people around you, don't give the celebration of life.
Yeah.
This happened, like all of these things could have happened
Yeah.
if you did not have your faith in the Lord, you know?
And I would say that, like, I can even see it. Like, there's been a couple of girls, a girl from my hometown, and I don't know them personally. I know their friend group, and I've seen them everywhere. I'm sure you follow them.
Yeah.
Kevin Murphy that passed
Yeah,
away
yeah.
in our hometown.
Yeah.
And even being able to reach out to her
Yeah.
and tell her that I understand what is happening. And there's been girls that I did not know from Nathan's hometown that they lost their boyfriends and their fiancés in the past few years, and they were people that strengthened me. And they're women, like girls at church that I've been able to talk to, and that I've been equipped in a very unique and special way to be able to pray what people need in grief,
Yeah.
to pray over them, and to know what women need in grief, even, and young women need in grief. Because
And that's the goodness that you're seeing
yes,
come out of it.
that's just one of the things that it's like, death has such a negative connotation on earth, and the
But
only
imagine
thing,
what Nathan is experiencing right
yes,
now. That
that
boy
was
does
the
not
only
want to come back down here.
those
I
were the
wouldn't.
only things that brought me joy during the entire
Yeah.
time of me, like the first few months of me grieving. It's like, oh my
I'm sorry.
gosh.
There's just a parade of
Work trucks. We're in a heavy construction area, but anyways, like, I would just be like, Nathan never got to travel the world. Nathan is seeing the most beautiful views that he could ever see in heaven right now. That boy does not care about going anywhere. He's in heaven. Like,
right.
I'm like,
The only
he never
person
got
who
to
went
play. He never got to play in the big leagues. Nathan is playing in the big leagues with all of the greatest people who have ever played baseball ever and are in heaven.
Right.
Like, he is
Yeah, and
experiencing
it's like
so much joy.
the only person who went to heaven and wanted and stepped not wanted, who stepped down was Jesus Christ
Yeah,
himself.
yeah.
And like how much humility did that take? Like no
Yes.
one, that is comforting. And it
Yeah.
is selfish for us even, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it is almost selfish for us to be like, I wish he was still here. Because it's like he's in heaven, you know what I mean?
There's a duality to that, because it's like you miss that person's spirit.
Yes.
You miss that person's soul. But I do think that it's selfish of us to think that our plan is better than God's.
Right. This is true.
That our plan is not better than God's.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah. We are simply vessels that are here, and that's something that I've had to humble myself into. My life is a gift. My life is a gift.
God gives and he
God
takes away.
gives, and we are a vessel to do his work while we are here, and we are vessels. And that's not to say that he doesn't give us abundant things to enjoy.
Of
We're
course,
in
he wants us
Miami
to
right
prosper.
now. He wants us to be joyful and happy and spend time together and see
Yes.
the glorious things that he's created.
Yep.
And see the glory in this world that he can come down and put his hand into. But at the end of the day, we are vessels, and we are his children, and he loves us so much. And it's hard to say that obviously I wish that he could be here. I wish. But that's the
Yes.
thing, is I wish. And that's ultimately selfish of me, I think, because that's saying like God didn't have a plan in Nathan's death, and that my wish for Nathan
And
to
even
be
that
down on
can
earth
be
is better.
so like
It's hard to even say that.
it's hard to say that, but it's like saying that God's purpose in this,
Mhm.
and you wish, like, you don't know who's gonna get saved. You don't know, like that.
Mhm.
I think that's the thing. I think this is the thing. I think the Lord just dropped this in my spirit.
Okay, word from the word.
We have such a small perspective.
Mhm.
We have such a small perspective
That's so
in our
good,
lives on this earth. If you were the smartest person and you knew everything, quote unquote, you thought you knew everything on this earth, whatever, you still have such a finite perspective of what God's actually doing. Our purpose on this earth is to bring other people to the kingdom of heaven.
And
that is our sole purpose. And that is why people, even Christians, walk away from God
Yeah.
because we start looking at the things around us, the other things that we want, and I'm guilty of it.
Yeah.
It's very easy. The enemy
Yeah.
comes in and puts very, very nice looking things in front of you. It happened to Eve, for God's sake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it happened to her. He put a beautiful looking apple tree in front of her and she bit the apple and sin
Yeah.
entered the world. He puts beautiful things in front of us and wants us to
Yeah.
bite. And it is like, what does the Bible say?
Yeah.
The devil comes disguised as an angel of light.
Yeah.
Disguise, the deception. That is what we're going to face on this
Yeah.
earth. But the sole purpose is to be zealous for other people's salvation.
Yeah.
That is why there are evangelists. That is why you've maybe been approached by someone and who has prayed over you in
Yeah.
public, because true Christians who have the Holy Spirit in them and who have the heart of Jesus Christ will grieve your salvation
Yeah.
like we do. I grieve so deeply the people in my life who are not saved
Yeah.
because I know your destination. And it is wrong for people to go in a funeral and say, we know where this person is in a better place. Don't say that. Do
Yeah.
not say that if you don't know that. If that person was not a follower of Christ, don't say that and give that family false hope.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. You know,
Yeah.
like, let's be real. Who told him about the gospel? Was he saved before he
Yeah.
died? Not
Yes.
Nathan specifically,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying in
Yeah.
general.
No, I get that. Yeah.
And
No.
so I think, like, that is where
You can't
my
just-
zeal comes from.
I'm
and your zeal
sorry
comes
to say
from.
this, but you can't just say that everybody goes to heaven.
They don't. They do not
Because
go.
the truth
Not
of
everyone goes to heaven.
If
The
you
gate
read
is
this,
narrow.
If you read this little book right here, I can promise you that it's going to tell you that the gate is narrow and that the walk is.
There are people who
There
are
are
deceived.
people who never step into the path, and
that should grieve your heart.
that should grieve your heart. And it's also that God tells us that you can look at creation and know that there's a creator.
Yeah.
So
in Romans 1, yeah.
It's your choice. It is, but gosh, and them pigeons are crazy. He's taking a stick back to his home, but it also takes. You have to. The reason we don't know everything is because you have to have faith.
Yeah, faith is what? Faith is everything.
Yeah, if you know the way that a project is gonna work and you know every single detail and what's gonna happen every single second because you put in so much time and effort to figure everything out strategically and you drove yourself mad over making sure this project worked perfectly and then it works perfectly, you're just like, whew, well, that was a relief. When you have faith in God, not knowing like anything, basically, like you said, we have such a small perspective. When you have faith in God and He delivers something, or He delivers you from something, or He gives you something, it's like, wow. It's wow. It's awe. It's like that just blew my mind, like genuinely. Like you've talked about it just in your relationship with Ryan and like the way that he's just weaved that together, and like there are things that you could have never imagined that you would have had.
Yeah.
And I mean that goes for everybody. There's things in our life that we could have never imagined that we would have had.
The Lord wants to bless you. He wants to bless you. We are promised to suffer as Jesus did because Jesus was the ultimate sacrifice. He suffered things that we can't even imagine.
Yeah, he was a perfect man and people still persecuted him.
He suffered things, I promise you, that you will never face in your entire life. And he did it for us to have relationship with us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it's just, is there anything else that you want to add?
I would say
like scripture or anything?
Just reading from Pastor Brandon spoke on a message literally like a month after Nathan had passed.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
And his mom passed not too long ago. And she was battling cancer, and I like had a personal conversation with him after it because it was just so like right on point. He said, "Those who plant in tears will harvest the shouts of joy. They weep as they go to plant their seed, but they sing as they return with the harvest." I don't know which verse that was.
It's Psalm something probably.
Yeah. I forgot to write the verse down, but and another thing, that was one of the verses that I was like, okay, like my grieving is because grieving can sometimes feel like a bad thing. It can be like just something that people only see you for is like, oh, I'm the girl that lost her boyfriend. That
please do not see people that way.
Do not ever label people as something that they have lost. Let me tell you guys that, because when people come up to me with puppy dog eyes, bro, don't even want to. I want to turn away and walk away from them when I see them approaching me. Like, genuinely,
Like, I'm okay.
if somebody is grieving, and like grieving is a lifetime process. Like, it's not ever something that you're just like, whoop, this is over. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's something
It'll
that
be a
happens
part of
forever.
you.
It's a part of you forever, but like that's not to say
There's
there's
light.
people that care about you and like thank you for caring about me and coming up and asking me for it, but like how I am, but do not ever label anybody as what they have lost or what they are, because
Yeah.
that's just so diminishing. Another thing that Pastor Brandon said was God's goodness, strength, protection, security, mercy, praise, patience, love. Everything that is a characteristic of God is not dependent on how I feel.
Yep.
It is who He is. It is who He is. It is who He is. And throughout everything that I've experienced in the past, literally everything we've talked about today, 5 months. 5 months.
This is not years.
This is not years.
This is not,
This is 5 months of accelerated wisdom that the Lord has given me because of what I have experienced.
Yeah.
And that, like, there's a rock in me that cannot be moved. And Pastor Brandon said that in this one too. The joy of the Lord is not an escape. However, the hardship of the world cannot drive out the happiness in the heart of a Christian. It can't. The hardship in the world cannot drive out the joy that's in my heart.
That's
it
good.
cannot drive out the joy that's in my soul. And I said that earlier, but like genuinely, it is something that when you step into it and you take it seriously and you say, okay, I'm going full in for my faith, whatever that may look like in your life, and it's going to look different for everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody's faith looks the same. Nobody's walk looks the same. Nobody's hardship that they experience looks the same. Nobody's even grief looks the same, because I had a hard time with that. Comparing my grief to other people and diminishing my grief.
Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, being like, I wasn't his childhood best friend who lost him. I wasn't his mom who lost him. I wasn't his brother who lost him. So my grief is big, but like I shouldn't really talk about it. I shouldn't say anything about it because I only knew him for like, well, I've known him my whole life, but like I only knew him for such a specific amount of time in a specific way that like I shouldn't. But don't put that limitation on yourself either. It's just that the Lord will deliver. Everybody's walk is going to look differently, and you're going to have times in your life where you do lose things, whether that be job, children, family members, siblings, like just your home, pets, anything that you're going to be grieving, and it's going to look different. But I encourage everybody that's on the other side of the screen today, if you have a way to salvation. First of all, you have a way to salvation. Look at creation and know that there's a creator. You have a way to salvation. There, I promise you, is at least one person speaking into your life at some point in time that you've heard something, and please recollect that. Please remember something that somebody said, or that's just what I feel like the Lord is telling me right now. Like there has been somebody in everybody's life that has approached you in public, and maybe you didn't know them, like you said. But
somehow, some way, the Lord sees you, and we are without excuse. It says that in the Bible in Romans, that we are without excuse because, like you said, you can look at the trees and know that something created it. You can look at the sky, in the ocean, in the mountains, and know that something had to create this. So give glory to the Creator, as we are creation. That is a humble heart posture to recognize yourself as less than God. God is creator, we are his daughters and his sons, and that is a posture of humility, and knowing that he is in control, we are not. His will is above our own. His purpose, we have purpose on his plan for our life, and it's just a matter. But he is not going to force it on you. He is not going to force you to receive him during grief or during any of these things. It is our free will that he granted us through his love and kindness, that we are able to say yes to him, and it is a choice, and it's not forced on us, because that's not love. And love is who God is. And so one more question I want to ask you is, so speak to anyone just like really quick about where you are today, and like just the possibilities, and not putting God in the box, because I feel like if you would let the world speak to you, they would have said, this is, in a few years, like you'll feel a relief,
No,
so
definitely.
so lies like that aren't true, and just kind of where you are today and how
where I am today, I'm still in school. I didn't drop out, guys. I didn't quit my job, I promise. I still have a job. I'm still in school. So that's a blessing that I even have the strength and the power to carry through with that. I right now in my faith am just in a season of, which was so funny because it was literally like what we were talking about last episode last week, of just kind of like complacency, like just being in a still season with the Lord, and everything is kind of routine right now, but it's peaceful routine. And um just I have there's a different grief now that I experience. It's more of a lingering and a longing to be with Nathan rather than like the sharp stinging pain that what it first was. But in moments of time where I feel like I need companionship, where I need that love, where I want a hug from Nathan, or I want to hear Nathan's voice. Obviously I have pictures, videos, whatnot of him, but that's the times that I turn to the Lord. And there's been so much learning that has happened, and I thank God that I've just been able to be receptive to it and understand what he's speaking to me in every different season of my grief. But right now it's just focusing on my relationship with the Lord and in a companionship way. Still a student, still I'm finishing out my associates, going to Lynchburg next year. Whoop whoop, go Hornets. And then but just taking every day as it comes is very important. But also being excited about your future. If you're grieving about something, give yourself something to be excited about, girl. Girl or guy, actually. If you're grieving about something, please give yourself something to be excited about. Whether it be the energy drink you have when you wake up in the morning, or going outside and sitting in the sun.
Get up.
Or seeing your dog be happy to see you in the morning.
Get up, go get vitamin D. Let the sunshine hit your eyeballs, your pupils. It's really good for you. Put your belly button in the sun too. That's really good for you. It is.
Give yourself something to be semi excited about. Have something that lights your soul on fire.
The Lord.
The Lord. But in the little mundane things every day. And start paying attention. I'll say that too. Start paying attention. Pay attention to the good things around you. If you overlook everything,
switch. Flip the script, as Pastor Michael would say. Flip the script.
Like, just pay attention. Pay attention to people being kind to each other in the grocery store. Pay attention to there being one last straw when you go to Tropical Smoothie and knowing that it was meant for you when you came in. Like, just little things like that every day.
Driving and getting home safely, because I remember after he passed away, I'm not scared of anything. I don't deal with fear that much. I had a not crippling, but like I had a real fear to get in my car. I had a real fear of when we got that call and Ryan was going to come to me. He left work and was coming to me. Like, I had a real fear of like, I don't want you to drive. So just praising the Lord that you got home safely, you know, like that's like another thing, or that you could drive, or that you have like just little things like that. And also being aware to like being more careful and being more in tune with how precious life is and how easy it can be taken away from you. Don't take your life for granted. Taking your life for granted is sitting and sulking in your bed every single day and acting like poor pitiful me. There is a time and there is a place for that, for grieving, but do not do that every single day. That is not productive for you. That is not going to help you. To just sulk and sit in filth, and not literal filth, like maybe but like filth of your mind, just filth. Like you have to get up and you have to, like you said, look forward to something. And there is something to look forward to, whether that's eternity, because I can tell y'all what,
I'm lit.
I'm ready for that day. But not to die. I'm not saying that, but if Jesus came down right now, I wouldn't be mad about it. So, but
I just want to say one little thing before we like close out in prayer. I just want to shout out all of the girls that I have met throughout this experience, and girls that I have been friends with that are going through it now. And just people that have been able to speak into my life. Because there's things that I can take from like a worldly view conversation even. And I'm like, like that's exactly how I feel. And like, being able to speak into their situation in a different way. But there are people that have spoken into me, that have experienced it, and that I've been able to speak over.
Shout out Alive Church.
Shout out Alive Church. Shout out Sarah's entire small group. This journal was given to me by them, and there's literally Bible verses all throughout it. And some days it's literally just what I need to get me kick in the butt to get
Yeah.
going in the morning. But keep showing up to church if you're grieving. Keep
Go to
showing,
church if you
being
don't go to
community.
church.
Go
Ask
to
for help.
Yeah, ask for help. And it may seem hard, but push past it. Push past it. Make yourself push past it.
It's
Please,
uncomfortable.
I
It
beg of
hurts.
you, literally push past it, because I was on autopilot and I forced myself. I forced myself to continue to show up to church. And guess what?
God showed up for you.
God showed up. So keep doing that. And if you aren't in church, be in church. Start going to church. Find a church that you love, and be with people that love you. So,
Okay.
yeah.
You gonna pray?
Yeah, I will. Okay.
Give me a hand, boo boo.
Lord, I just thank you so much. First of all, for this beautiful morning, for this beautiful earth that you've created, and that you've given us just the opportunity to see you in so many glorious ways. I thank you for this platform and the opportunity to speak to so many people who are experiencing loss in this season, and will be experiencing loss forever, Lord. I pray that you soften their heart to you, that you just peel the lens off of their eyes and allow them to see through the eyes that you give them, Lord. Renew in them a new heart. Just allow them to feel your comfort, allow them to encounter you in everyday things, allow them to see you in the conversations they're having, Lord, and just the people that they're around. And I pray that there is a move to the person on the other side of this screen, and that this touches their heart, and that this touches their ears. Don't allow this message to fall on deaf ears, Lord, but allow it to be shared. I pray that your glory is worked through this, that there are people that are moved to come to your kingdom, that we always want to point up. We always want to point everything back to you, Lord, and make sure that the focus is always on you, Lord, and that it's never on me. I pray that if I did speak out of ego or anything on this message, that would just be rebuked, and that wouldn't be really heard at all. But Lord, I thank you for everything that you've done for us, for the places that you've brought me, and the wisdom that you've granted me to be able to speak on this. I pray all of these things in Jesus' amazing name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for watching. Thank you for just tuning in. I pray that this touches your heart and just allow Jesus into your life.
Yep.
We'll see y'all in the next episode. Or I'll see you on the next
I won't
episode.
be here.
She won't be here. Anyways, bye everyone.
Bye guys.